Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources and really pull out the key insights, giving you that shortcut to being genuinely well informed. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, incredibly vivid ancient text. It paints a picture, well, one you might not expect. Our source material today, it's excerpts from Micah chapter 6. We're going to focus particularly on this idea of the divine court. So our mission is to unpack this pretty dramatic courtroom scene, understand its context from back then, and figure out why its lessons about justice and mercy and, what's really required, why they still hit home for us today. Expect some maybe surprising aha moments along the way. Okay, so let's dig into this incredible scene. Right away, the first lines of Micah 6, they just throw us into what feels like, well, the courtroom of heaven.
Right.
The prophet Micah is there, presenting Israel almost like they're defendants on trial. But my first question is, okay, who's the judge here? And who's acting as the prosecutor?
Yeah, it's a powerful setup. And what's fascinating right from the get-go is this divine setting. The Lord Adonai, as the Hebrew text says, he isn't just presiding. He's actually taking the role of the prosecutor, laying out the case against Israel. And listen to this. He calls on the mountains and hills to hear what you have to say and listen to Adonai's case.
Wow, the mountains and hills.
Exactly. In Jewish tradition, mountains, hills, these were often seen as places you get close to God's teaching. They sort of represent the patriarchs, the matriarchs, the very foundation of their history. It's like calling on their ancestors, their bedrock, as witnesses.
So like calling history itself to the stand.
Precisely. And this whole idea of a divine court, it's not totally unique to Micah. It's a recurring theme, really, emphasizing God as the ultimate judge, the ultimate arbiter.
Okay, so God, the prosecutor, starts his case. And it sounds really personal, almost like a challenge. He asks the accused, my people, what have I done to you? How have I wearied you? Answer me. It feels less like a formal charge and more like, I don't know, a heartbroken plea.
It does have that feel. But if we step back, think about how a court case often starts. You read the law that was supposedly broken, right?
Right.
Here, God isn't reading a specific statute. He's pointing back to the covenant. The fundamental agreement he made with Israel, the kind of terms you see in Leviticus 26, he's basically asking, did I fail on my end? Did I not uphold my side of the contract?
So he's reminding them of the original agreement.
Yes. God promised to lead them, provide for them, protect them. This was a promise made way back when they were slaves in Egypt, and they agreed to it out in the desert. And in return, Israel was supposed to acknowledge him alone, follow only him. So he's laying down the foundation. Here's the deal we made, and I kept my promises.
And he doesn't just say, he kept his promises, right? He provides evidence, specific examples for this divine court. What does he point to?
Yeah, he brings exhibits, essentially. Two really clear, undeniable acts to show his faithfulness. First, he reminds them how he stopped Balaam from cursing them. Remember Balaam? Hired specifically to curse Israel.
Oh, right, and God turned the curse into a blessing.
Exactly, divine intervention. And second, he points to that miraculous crossing of the Jordan River between Shittim and Gilgal. That moment they finally entered the Promised Land after 40 years wandering.
These are huge landmark events in their history.
Absolutely. Not small things. These were massive displays of God's power and his commitment to them. He's building a rock-solid case. I was faithful, unequivocally.
Okay. So God lays out this powerful case. Then Micah seems to shift gears, almost like he turns to the people and voices their question, that kind of timeless dilemma with what can I come before Adonai? Should I bring burnt offerings, young calves? Would God want thousands of rams or 10,000 rivers of olive oil? It feels very human, like trying to bargain or find the right currency.
That's exactly it. Micah is showing the people, look, even the most extreme, the most lavish displays of religious ritual or wealth, thousands of rams, rivers of oil, it's just not enough. It doesn't meet the requirement of the covenant. Think about the law of Moses, all those prescribed offerings. They were almost like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it.
Yeah.
And no matter how many animals they sacrificed, how much they did, they couldn't perfectly fulfill it on their own. The offerings weren't the solution. They were maybe more like a constant reminder.
A reminder of their own shortcomings.
Yes, exactly. A reminder that they couldn't meet God's perfect standard through outward actions alone, pointing them towards needing something more, something deeper.
And Micah pushes that even further. He asks, could I give my firstborn to pay for my crimes, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? I mean, that's just a shocking question. It shows utter desperation.
It really does. It underlines the point.
Yeah.
Even the most unthinkable, the most personally devastating sacrifice a child's life still isn't sufficient payment, which naturally leads to the crucial question. Okay, if all that stuff isn't enough, what does God actually want?
Right. What's the answer?
And Micah sums it up beautifully, really. 3 core things. Things required then. Things that still echo today. It's a shift away from just ritual toward genuine relationship. First, act justly. Live rightly. Align with that divine standard of fairness and righteousness.
Okay, justice.
Second, love mercy. Or love, he said, is closer to the Hebrew, that loyal covenant love. It means understanding that salvation goodness is a gift, unearned, showing that same kind of committed, merciful love to others.
Love mercy. Got it.
And third, walk humbly with God. This isn't about big, showy acts of piety. It's about a daily, ongoing, dependent relationship, walking with Him step by step.
Justice, mercy, humility.
Together, these 3 things, they represent this huge pivot from what we might call religion, human efforts trying to earn God's favor, towards understanding grace, which is God's effort, God's favor given to us.
That's a really powerful distillation. Okay, so after laying that out, it feels like there's a pause, maybe a moment of grace offered. Micah says, the voice of Adonai, he calls to the city, and it is wisdom to fear your name. Listen to the rod and to him who commissioned it. What's going on there? Is that like a final warning or an opportunity?
I think it's exactly that, an opportunity. Micah's telling them, listen, God is still offering mercy here. It's a plea, really. Come to your senses.
Mm-hmm.
If they could just grasp that God is trying to correct them, like a shepherd guiding a lost sheep, not just punish them, they could still turn things around.
Like a judge calling a recess.
Sort of. Like in a human court, maybe the judge sees the writing on the wall and calls a recess, gives the parties a last chance to, reconsider or settle. This feels similar. It's an invitation to wisdom, to understanding, a chance for real repentance before the final judgment comes down.
Despite that invitation, that pause, the picture painted next is pretty grim. The text immediately highlights their corruption, right? Are there still ill-gotten gains in the house of the wicked? Still the detestable short IFA measure? Should I declare innocent wicked scales and a bag of fraudulent weights? It sounds like widespread everyday cheating.
Yes, these are rhetorical questions, but they paint a stark picture of just how deep the rot goes in their daily lives, especially business dealings. An IFA, for listeners, was a standard measure for grain and things. So a short IFA means deliberately shortchanging people. Wicked scales, fraudulent weights. It's basic dishonesty.
Cheating in the marketplace.
And it wasn't just a few bad apples. Micah presents it as systemic. It's a symptom of how far they'd turned from God's ways in practice. God saying, I see this. I can't just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
They might have been, going to the temple, doing the rituals.
Showing through the motions.
Exactly. But their everyday lives were corrupt. Maybe hoping God wouldn't notice or wouldn't care about those small things.
It's easy to think of short IFA measures as ancient history, but you see parallels today, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Think about subtle deceptions in business or, cutting corners, false advertising. It's about that erosion of basic honesty and trust, which feels very relevant.
And the list keeps going. It mentions the rich being full of violence and the people telling lies with tongues of deceit in their mouths. So it's broader than just business fraud.
Right. It paints a picture of societal breakdown. And that word liars here, it's interesting. It implies more than just telling individual falsehoods. It speaks to a deeper deceit. They were claiming allegiance to God, maybe participating in religious life. But their actions, their hearts, were elsewhere. They weren't living out the truth they professed.
So, a fundamental hypocrisy.
You could put it that way. It's like maybe someone attends worship regularly, but the rest of the week, God's principles have no bearing on their decisions or actions. They might be fooling themselves with the outward forms of religion rather than embracing genuine grace and letting it change them from the inside out.
Okay. So God has made his case. He's offered this moment for reflection, this recess, but the people are shown to be deeply corrupt. What's the final verdict from this divine court?
Well, the verdict is severe, as you'd expect. But interestingly, it's described as gradual, not immediate annihilation. God says, therefore, I am starting to strike you down to destroy you because of your sins. It begins with him removing his blessing, his provision.
How so?
The text says, you will eat but not be satisfied. You will conceive but not give birth. You will sow but will not reap. You will press olives but not get oil, press grapes but not drink the wine. It's like the basic productivity of life starts to fail. All their effort leads to nothing. It's a painful consequence, a slow unraveling.
And it emphasizes that God was ready to pardon them if they turned back.
That seems to be the implication. This gradual nature suggests chances were still there. But ultimately, if they persisted, the final punishment was inevitable, being handed over to their enemies. Defeat and exile. It's the natural outcome of breaking the covenant so thoroughly.
In the summary of the whole trial, the closing argument essentially points back to their history, their patterns of idolatry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The final verse brings it all home, connecting their current sins directly to notorious figures from their past. For you keep the regulations of Omri and all the practices of the house of Ashav Ahab, modeling yourselves on their advice.
Omri and Ahab, big names in terms of leading Israel astray, right?
Huge. Omri built Samaria, which became a real hub for idol worship. And Ahab, well, his wife Jezebel infamously promoted Baal worship throughout Israel. So the verdict is essentially, you're not just sinning now, you're actively choosing to repeat the worst, most idolatrous patterns of your history. And because of that deep-seated rebellion, the consequence would be ruin and becoming a cautionary tale, an object of ridicule among the nations.
Wow. Okay, so quite a journey through that divine courtroom, from God laying out his case so powerfully to Micah's challenge about what really matters, justice, mercy, humility, and then facing the sad reality of their corruption and where it led. It's a deep dive that really makes you stop and think about our relationship with the divine, whatever one's beliefs are.
It really does. And if you look at the bigger picture, Micah 6 offers such a timeless lesson, doesn't it? It pushes us beyond just, ticking boxes or performing rituals. It calls us to what God truly desires. That justice, that mercy, that humble day-by-day walk. And what Micah reveals, it's almost an inversion to how society often measures worth, isn't it? It's not about the big public displays, but about quiet integrity, empathy, genuine humility, things maybe our world doesn't always value enough.
That's a great point. It's a call to integrity, really, not just in some religious part of life, but in everything.
Exactly, in every aspect.
So this deep dive into Micah 6, it definitely leaves us with something to chew on. A question, perhaps, for you, our listener. In your own life, maybe in the world you see around you, where might that focus on just the outward religious stuff be getting in the way of the deeper call? To act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And what does that walking humbly even look like today in a world just saturated with noise, information, distractions, and this pressure to always perform? Definitely something to ponder.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope this gave you that shortcut to being well-informed and maybe sparked a few aha moments for you. Join us next time for another deep dive into a stack of sources.